Well, welcome to the 2010 Bentley Supersport. This thing has a W12 in it. It's a little mini Bugatti motor, I like to call it. And a little background about the car before I get into the motor is I used to own this car. This pretty much exact car minus the carbon bucket seats that they come optioned with. I had the comfort seats minus the rear strut bar, strut brace, whatever they want to call this bar back here. Does not have no rear seats. That is a little bit of a downside between the comfort seat option in this car and the carbon buckets. These bucket seats are Veyron bucket seats technically in terms of design, material, and the look of them. The Veyron bucket seats have a little bit different design up here, but other than that, they're very similar when you look them up. So it's pretty sweet. The next thing is this. This has a W12 in it. Tons of horsepower and torque. I'm going to look up the horsepower and torque here in a second because I forgot off the top of my head, but I believe it's 621 horsepower with close to 650 foot-pounds of torque. They're like fourth gear right now, just getting on the freeway. It's just low RPM and just, you can't even feel that. You probably barely even heard it in the video. That was about 30% throttle. And the thing about the Supersport is I love the dry carbon here. The dry carbon inside the car, it's not a gloss carbon. It's like this dry carbon. What I want to say by dry carbon, it's like a semi-gloss. It's more of a matte look. But it gives it this nice touch to the car where it's just very clean. It's very nice, it's very clean, and it gives it that Supersport feeling. So the difference in a regular Bentley this year and a Supersport these are some of the things. The W12 motor, of course, the nicer wheels. At the time when this car first came out, it had the biggest brakes ever fitted on a production car. They're 17-inch carbon ceramic brakes in the front, and I can't remember the size of the rear rotors, but the fronts are huge. They're massive, 17-inch carbon ceramics. Like a Ford Focus driving down the road has like 15 or 16-inch wheels. So like put that into perspective. Like this car's brakes are the size of some cars' wheels. The next thing that's nice about this car is that it is a very, very good buy at the price that they're going for nowadays. This fine example right here with 33,000 miles only on the car is selling at MS Motors right now for $69,000 asking price. And I bought my Supersport in quartzite gray at a time when the market was kind of fluctuated down right when COVID hit. That second month we were into COVID. I bought mine for $67,000 with 23,000 miles on it. Originally it was advertised a little over 75, but they dropped the price down. I think people got scared, etc. So it was a great buy because when I sold it for about $70,000. So I owned the car pretty much for almost free for a year. And free as in I just made the payment, broke even on the car, sold it for pretty much the same price I got it for. And Manny helped me sell that car, and thanks to him for letting me use this car as a review also from MS Motors. So check them out if you're looking to buy a car like this. This car is for sale. The next thing is, there is a downside to the car because I've owned the car, I've lived with it for a long time, is the infotainment system. Yes, this is a 2010, so they made about I believe it was around 600 to 650 total Supersports ever made in production. The coupe model, because they did make a Supersport and a convertible in 2012, but 10 and 11, about 650 or so made, give or take, and only made for 2 years. And the downside is in that 10 and 11 model, the infotainment system, it has Bluetooth, but it doesn't have streaming audio. So you have to buy the connector that goes in the glove box down here in order to actually have the nice like streaming from your phone audio, as opposed to getting the old iPod connection is what's in there. Back in 2010, that was popular, the old iPod 32-point connection. And I believe the first iPhone was a 32-point connection as well, the old iPod plug. Another really cool thing, I love how all the windows go down. So it's like the window is completely frameless, as you can see. So the frameless window is pretty badass, especially when you're rolling and you have some crazy interior color in your car, like red or something nuts like that, and you're just cruising down the street, or you're pulling up to a restaurant or parking the car wherever, or just going for a nice drive. You have the crazy interior just showing off. I'm gonna put the windows up here for the video purposes, but that's pretty sweet. It's like probably one of my favorite features of the car. I actually didn't use it as much as I thought I would, but I probably should have. The next thing is the seats are heated, which is pretty badass. The heated seats are nice because they are buckets, but everything is manual on the seat. So the Supersport is like their super high sport version of this car in terms of like the highest sports car version is what I want to say. That's what the Supersport kind of entitles. So it has the bucket seats are all manual. It is a little bit of a lighter version than a regular Bentley. It does not have a sunroof or anything like that. I think some of the newer ones now do. To my knowledge, I don't think the coupes did, because the way the roof is arched on this car, I don't think you could actually fit a sunroof. But full Alcantara on the roof here, which is amazing. The steering wheel is like nice and real leather. The entire dash is leather. The buttons, in terms of they're kind of like these push button kind of, you know, whatever you want to call these, like little vent pushers. They're so nice. The quality is insane on them. I love the nice Breitling clock inside as well. Gives it a nice touch of like a high-end feel, this is what it is. I mean, this is a high-end car, because when this car first came out, MSRP of these cars were around, you know, depending on how you option them out, starting anywhere between 220 to 230, all the way up to 285, 290. And I think this one's kind of falls into the higher end of the spectrum of that, around the 260, 270 mark, because my car with the regular comfort seats was only an option, I think it was like 255 or 245 or something like that was the original MSRP. And I know this option is fairly expensive for these bucket seats. It has I can't pronounce it. It's like, I'll look into it later in terms of in the video, but it's like the NIAM Bentley sound system, which sounds amazing. And the Alcantara here on the door, all the buttons feel nice. It kind of the buttons feel very like, if you've sat in a Rolls Royce before, the buttons feel very Rolls Royce-ish, for lack of a better term, where they're high quality, they're very nice bucket seats, buttons. The bucket seats are actually really comfortable. I think these are probably one of the most comfortable bucket seats I've ever sat in. I actually think now, you know, my buddy was telling me, because he used to have a Supersport with the buckets and I had the comfort seats, I actually think now sitting in the car that the bucket seats are actually more comfortable than the comfort seats. For my body type anyways, because my body type is slimmer. I fit perfectly in these bucket seats. So now, I mean, you're looking at a car around 621 horsepower, super fast. It was the highest top speed, in terms of the highest top speed Bentley and fastest Bentley they ever made when this came out. In top speed, they recorded 204 miles an hour. This is insane, like for the price that you're paying now for a used Bentley. Like when I had my Bentley and I would go to the gas station or I'd go anywhere, people literally thought that my car was a 2017, 2018, 2019. Because the way these cars are designed, especially the Supersport with the more aggressive bumper, the hood, this aggressive styling overall with the wheels and the bigger brakes, this car looks like a new car. It looks like a $250,000 car till this day, because it has that timeless look. And now Bentley with the new one really kind of facelifted it and really changed it kind of dramatically. So now you can kind of tell, but still, you know, when you see a Bentley coming at you, even the new ones, the 2020 and up, you see it coming at you, you still kind of like, is it the new one or is it not? And this car still does that. This car, you still pull up somewhere, nobody would ever know you paid $70,000 for a car like this. This car still has the presence of a $200,000+ car when you drive up, or when you pick somebody up for the first time, or you're going on a date with the chick for the first time, like I did in my car, where they'd get in and think like you're some millionaire, billionaire guy, but really you just know how to buy cars that are sleeper cars. Like this is a sleeper car. It goes overlooked, and I've said that in my last video, like with the RS5 too, for example. But you know, this is a sleeper car, and this is a car that in my eyes, you know, with the limited production run, etc., that over the years it could end up going up in value, but they're definitely not going down in value in terms of their mileage and kind of where they've been sitting at for the last year or two. And since I've had mine, I kind of still take a look and peek at what's out there, but what's out there in terms of, you know, what cars are going for sale for what price, etc., in the Supersport realm. And they're still very, very comparably priced to other cars that you might want to buy that don't necessarily have the curb appeal, so to speak, for lack of a better term, with a car like this. When you pull up in a Bentley, so for the price of around $70,000 for this car, it's insane. Like even when I bought my car, going back to it, I think sometimes, you know, when I bought it, I didn't feel like I bought a car for $67,000. I felt like I bought a car for like some crazy amount, because it's just so underrated right now in terms of getting bang for the buck. Yeah, people get scared. Oh my God, my car, it's a Bentley, I got it, it's gonna have so many maintenance issues, blah, 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 I don't wanna buy it, the cost of ownership is gonna be so expensive. Besides me doing oil change and new tires, I paid for nothing on the car in terms of there's no issues with it whatsoever. I bought the car with 23,000 miles on it. I sold it with 35,000 miles in 1 year. I drove the shit out of this car. You're talking 12,000 miles, 12,500, give or take. 12,500 miles, let's call it, in a year of ownership. It was actually 11 months, so a little less. And I drove it everywhere. I drove it on road trips. I took it on drives. I took that thing up to like 195 or something on a drive out, way out into the middle of nowhere in the eastern Oregon. Like, that thing was a soldier. All I did was change the oil. Never had a check engine light. Never had an issue with the car. It always started up every day. It drove perfectly fine. Like, it literally was perfect in terms of ownership wise. So when people are saying like, hey, it's cost too much to own a car like this, etc., it doesn't cost that much. They don't know anybody that's ever owned a car for them to actually have any type of comparable experience, because they've never met anybody or knew anybody. So that's kind of the point of this review, right? Like, talking to somebody that owned a car for a year. The reason I bought the car was I was talking to my friend, and he said, yeah, he had the best ownership experience with the Supersport, no issues at all. So I'm like, for the price, and after you telling me about your experience, I think I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on one and own it just to see what it's like. And I loved it. And I actually kind of like, I didn't think I was going to miss the car, but recently, you know, the weather's getting better and stuff. I'm like, wow, I kind of missed the car. The presence that it had on the road, and the way that people, you know, oohed and awed over it when you would drive it for the price that it was is unbelievable. But then the way you'd feel driving it, you know, right now we're comfortably cruising, enjoying this drive, but like, this thing is still like fast as shit. Like, it's still very fast, and it's all-wheel drive, so it puts the power down. It's not a car that, you know, that you would expect to be so fast. I mean, granted it has all that power, but this is a very heavy car. I mean, you're looking at a car north of 5,000 pounds, all-wheel drive, very heavy. The finish of this car is obviously bar none. It is a Bentley. It has a dual paned windows, so it has dual thickness glass. You can see the double thickness of the glass, so it makes the cabin very quiet and that luxurious feel. So overall, this car is amazing. And if a car that you're looking at in the $60,000 to $70,000 range, where you want this crazy luxury in terms of what you're buying, crazy pull up, quote unquote, where people look at you when you pull up, it still handles decently well for what it is. It does, and it drives good in comfort mode and sport mode, and it's fast. On the freeway, this thing pulls like a freight train. It just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. It doesn't stop. I mean, 204 top speed, this thing literally, I pulled all the way up to 190, 195 in mine, and it just kept going and going. It was like a freight train. So this car, we'll do a review on the inside here in a little bit when I, you know, pan the camera around some more and talk about it. But this car is definitely one of those cars where you're not going to have it on your radar. And that's why I think, you know, my buddies had the car for sale for a little bit, but it's not big. It's a tougher car to sell, because if you know about it, you know about it. You know the benefits of it. You know the amazing value that the car has, and you know that this thing is an amazing car if you know about what a Supersport is. Not many people know about a Supersport. So like, look at this thing, just pulls like a freight train. Just does not stop pulling. You have the 17-inch carbon ceramic brakes here. They're just nuts. Like, look at those things. And those are 20-inch wheels, so they just fill up that back of the wheel there. It's just nuts. And you can see like the cool frameless windows, how they have that ovalness to them. So it does have an active rear wing on this car. So this rear wing, I'll put it up here in a little bit when I start it. And it has that active rear wing where it's just, you know, at higher speeds, or you can manually change it. You know, the Supersport has that signature styling of the Supersport. Obviously the lights, the grille, the Bentley logo, but you know, the more aggressive front bumper, the vents in the hood, obviously the wheels like I mentioned earlier, and then, you know, the inside. I mean, that dry carbon that I was talking about earlier, the, you know, the Veyron style bucket seat, which is just beautiful. I think it's one of the best things about this car. I kind of, you know, it was hard finding my car, so I wasn't gonna be too picky about it. But, you know, getting those, you know, bucket seats is just sick if you can find one with it. You know, the Supersport also has that nice, you know, the pedals where it makes it feel more like a sports car. You know, there is a downside, you know, you don't get the back seats with the Supersport. The seats are manual. There's still some adjustments and stuff that you can do on the seat, obviously, like any other car, but they are manual seats. I'll go ahead and start it here. So the nice part about this car too is that, you know, you have the heated seats here. You do have a push to start, so you don't have to worry about the key or worry about, you know, pushing a key in there, even though there is a hole for it in case your battery dies. The Bentley key is very nice. It's a very nice key. It's like very heavy. Pops out. If you've seen a Veyron key, they're like exactly the same. So you can also stiffen the suspension of the car too. So if you want it in comfort mode, you could have it in comfort. If you want to change it to sport mode or anything like that, you could do that. You can also raise the front end up too. The car sits a little high from the factory, but if you really need to raise it up, you can go ahead and do that. Here's the button for the rear wing, which I'll go walk out there and check out right now. Oops, I didn't push the button actually. That was the button for the suspension, not the rear wing. But the rear wing here has a pretty sweet button.
Hi.
How you doing? Someone checking out the Supersport. See, you get that reaction with the Supersport. It's not like any normal car. Here's a nice touch too that, you know, that kind of goes unlooked. You have the dual pane windows, of course, but then you have the soft close where it's, you know, kind of vacuum seals, I guess for lack of a better term, the cabin. Boom. Seals it up there. Little test here in sport mode. So overall, I mean, this car is truly amazing overall. I know I've said it a couple times. I know I say it about cars, but I'm not reviewing cars that I don't like, to be honest. And I'm sure there's going to be a time where I'm going to review a car that I don't like, and I'm going to tell you guys, hey, I don't like it. It's not amazing. But I look at the value, right? Like if this car right now today was $150,000, I'd be like, no thanks. Like it's not worth $150,000 in my eyes. Even $100,000 is a little bit too much. But for the price that these are selling for right now, I mean, it's a tough bargain to be. And that's kind of where I look at it when I'm doing these reviews, right? Like where you see the value in the car based on the price that you're paying for it today, not the price for when it came out, but what the price you're paying for it today. And, you know, there is a lot of cars out there that are overvalued today in the used car market as well. But overall, if you're looking to buy something awesome like this, then I would definitely buy something like this. And this is a great car with great interior for the price, for the used market. You can't beat it, bar none. And it has everything that you need. Yeah, the navigation is a little outdated. There's some things in here that could be better, obviously, but it's a 2010. Like, what do you expect from a 2010? Back then, this was new technology. So I hope you enjoyed the review. I hope you enjoyed the car. I hope you enjoyed my little walk around and my experience with it and my ownership experience of this exact car that I had, but just had comfort seats in different color. And it's something that I wouldn't shy away from again if I had to go backwards and do it based on my experience. So stupid ruts in the road making the noise. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the review. I hope you guys comment, do whatever you want to do. Check it out. If it's useful, great. If it's not, great. But, you know, I have access to review some cool cars, and I figure some other people probably want to learn something about a car that they might think about buying, or they might want to, you know, see my experience from an enthusiast standpoint where I've driven a lot of crazy cars, you know, from supercars to regular cars to owning regular cars and nice cars. So, well, I hope you guys enjoy and have a good day. Thanks for watching.